The Bible, it's this huge collection of books, right? Written over thousands of years. But what if it isn't just a library? What if it's all one single epic story with a clear beginning, a middle, and an end? Okay, let's dive in and see if we can map out that one big picture narrative. And the story kicks off right here with one of the most famous opening lines ever written. It sets a really powerful stage. The universe isn't some cosmic accident. No, it's a deliberate, thoughtful creation. And on day 6 of this story, God does something totally unique.
He creates humanity in his own image. He literally breathes his own life into them. He puts them in a perfect world, this garden called Eden, where they can just walk and talk with their creator. The setup is, well, it's absolute perfection.
This really shows you everything. On one side, you've got that perfection. Adam and Eve have everything they could possibly need in just one rule. Don't eat from that one tree. But they choose to disobey. And in that single moment, everything changes. Innocence is gone, replaced by shame. Their relationship with God is shattered, and they're kicked out of the garden. And this introduces the central problem that the rest of the Bible is going to try and solve. Sin and death are now in the world.
So how does God respond to this mess? He doesn't just scrap it and start over. Instead, he puts this incredible, long-term rescue plan into motion. It's a plan that's going to unfold over the entire Old Testament, this one promise passed down through generation after generation.
All right, let's kind of fast forward through history to see how this thing builds. Around 2000 BC, God calls this guy Abraham and promises to make a great nation from his family, a nation that will eventually bless the whole world. Hundreds of years later, that family, now the nation of Israel, is stuck in slavery in Egypt, so God raises up Moses to rescue them. Then, around 1000 BC, Israel gets a king, King David, and God promises him that one of his descendants will have a throne that lasts forever. But then, disaster strikes. The whole nation gets conquered. The people are hauled off into exile. It really looks like the promise is broken.
And this leads to this huge, nail-biting moment in the story. After hundreds of years of waiting, it seriously looks like God's big rescue plan has completely failed. Is that promise of a blessing, of a kingdom, of an eternal king, is it ever going to come true? And then, the story hits its climax. After 400 years of what felt like silence, the New Testament opens. And the one who the story presents as the fulfillment of every single ancient promise, he arrives. His name is Jesus.
This moment just ties it all together so brilliantly. An angel shows up to this young woman, Mary, and tells her she's going to miraculously have a son. And listen to the specific words the angel uses. He'll be given the throne of his father David, and his kingdom will never end. This is a direct callback, connecting Jesus all the way back to that promise made 1,000 years earlier.
So Jesus grows up and he starts this public ministry that is just unlike anything anyone had ever seen. He's performing these incredible miracles, healing diseases, controlling nature with a word, even raising people from the dead. These were all signs that pointed to him being that long-awaited king.
Now, this promised king was known as the Messiah, which just means the anointed one. And a lot of the ordinary people, they were convinced Jesus was him. But the religious leaders at the time, they saw him as a threat, a major threat to their power, and they started to plot against him.
And this, right here, is the story's ultimate turning point. That fundamental problem of sin and death that started way back in the garden is about to be confronted head-on, but not in the way anyone expected.
Jesus is betrayed by one of his own inner circle. He's abandoned by his closest friends. He's falsely condemned by the religious authorities. And then, he's handed over to the Romans to be executed by crucifixion, which is one of the most brutal forms of death you could imagine.
At the very instant he dies, something profoundly symbolic happens. There was this massive, thick curtain in the temple that separated the holiest place, God's symbolic presence, from everybody else, and it was torn in two. The message was unmistakable. The barrier between God and humanity was being ripped away.
But the story doesn't end in a tomb, not even close. 3 days later, some of Jesus' followers go to his tomb, and they find it empty. An angel is there, and he gives them the news that is the climax of the entire story. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said.
So here's the crucial part, how this all ties back to the very beginning. The problem that started in the Garden of Eden was sin, and it led to separation from God, and ultimately, death. The solution presented here, at the cross and the empty tomb, is forgiveness and the path to new eternal life.
That broken relationship is finally made whole again.
So when you step back and look at the whole thing, the entire biblical story makes this beautiful, cohesive arc. It starts in a perfect garden that was lost, and it ends with the promise that that garden will one day be fully restored in a new heaven and a new earth. And that leaves us with one final thought, right? What does it mean for us to be living in between the climax of that story and its final, unwritten chapter?